I think too often we have this idea that it's roads versus brooks, that the brooks are a problem. And they're a really essential part of life in Vermont. They're not going anywhere. And so really by maintaining these brooks and rivers as healthy ecosystems, we're actually protecting our roadways.
The TRPT is a web-based tool that can be used to identify flood and erosion risks on roads and bridges around Vermont. We selected these two sites as TRPT case studies because they're both prime examples of river, road, conflict areas where there have been damages in the past on both the local and state highway network. The first in the town of Plainfield, Vermont, a local bridge issue that's been a problem for the town.
The reason that we're here is that the Great Brook and the town of Plainfield has had a series of devastating floods.
Plainfield is a small town in central Vermont. Part of it is located in the Winooski River Valley. Only 1,200 people in the entire town. So it's actually a pretty small community. Having lived in the village for 40 years, I'm quite familiar with the hazards of the Great Brook.
The problem on this brook is that there isn't room for the river to move around in its valley bottom the way it needs to. And thus we end up with conflicts, road damage, bridge damage.
So when we do have a flooding event at the Brook Road Bridge, that location is a main thoroughfare for people who come down off the hills to commute to US 2 to get to work in Barre and Montpelier. So there's been detours that have lasted maybe as long as 2 weeks.
So one of the problems with the existing bridge is that it only had about a 25-foot span, which is less than the bankful width of the Great Brook. The Great Brook has about a 36-foot bankful span in this area. That's become a problem because you're obviously trying to put too much water through an area that can't take it. It's not a large enough hydraulic opening.
If you were looking at the Plainfield area for TRPT, you'd see some sediment accumulation, deposition risk along the Brook Road Bridge and some of the other bridges along Great Brook, where you have a lot of debris coming down, you have some local flat spots, and then you'd get buildup of material. And in those cases, the river has no place to flow, so the material builds up. It can clog at a bridge or even in the channel.
It is very important to have good data in order to be able to decide where the problems lie in a stream and how to go about trying to remediate those problems.
What's great about the TRPT is it brings in hard data, the damage data, the geologic data, the stream data, the storm data, and really shows what those vulnerabilities and risks are. It can help with, bringing people together that may not agree on, what the best way forward is.
What was recommended and the town selected was a 36-foot span structure that would span the bankful width of the river and also increase height of the roadway 6 inches. It's going to be a bridge that's resilient to flooding and something the community can depend on for years to come.
The TRPT is a great tool for a municipality like Plainfield to use to look at river and road data together and help prioritize future projects and guide their funds. Often there are limited resources to put towards transportation.
This tool can dramatically speed up the decision making and deciding where a town should be focusing its efforts.
The Route 9 corridor is a road that connects Brattleboro across the southern part of Vermont to Albany, essentially.
Route 9 is vital to local communities and also the regional transportation of goods and commodities, stretching even from the Boston greater area all the way over to Albany.
The road and the brook have a very interesting relationship with each other. Sometimes the brook decides it needs the road to get out of its way.
The Whetstone Brook is a steep mountain stream in a narrow valley, and it shares that valley with Route 9, so there's not a lot of space.
The region really depends on it being open. When this road is shut down, the local road options aren't great.
Because of the topography of Vermont, 60, 70 mile detours to get around to get from one side of Route 9 to the other if this road is impacted by flooding.
Where I see problems oftentimes arise is where we over-armor roads and then we just further exacerbate the very problems we're trying to fix in the streams and the rivers. And so if we actually take a holistic approach, looking at these as ecosystems in relationship to a road, I think we're going to have better outcomes all the way around.
You'll see a red line in the TRPT that shows high erosion risks, and those have played out in past floods, Tropical Storm Irene and others, where parts of Route 9 were literally washed away.
It's really critical, I think, that we plan for the climate that is here now and that's coming. But this is where TRPT can come in. We can use that as a model to show this is what's happened in the past, this is what we anticipate is going to happen in the future. This is why we're doing these projects. It may inconvenience you from time to time, but the goal is to keep everybody safe and sound and try to minimize the costs going forward so you don't have to rebuild the entire road.
And it's just important when our funding is so limited that we utilize those funds at the critical spot that is the highest risk.
A big use of the TRPT is to help prioritize projects for the future and get ahead of damages so we're not always reacting and then having disruptions to the transportation network.
So these two case studies are a great example of how the TRPT can help all communities, be it a state road or a small culvert within a town.
Rivers are very powerful, and we need to use all of the information and wisdom that we can come up with in order to be able to live safely near rivers.